The exact same things that are true for food are the same for air. If you eat really bad food, you're going to feel really bad. So when people are breathing in polluted air, their allergies are worse, their sleep quality is much, much worse.
Given your background in wildfire restoration, I want to jump right in. LA's once again experienced a devastating set of wildfires that we've ever seen, actually. What does that mean for the air we're breathing right now?
So the entirety of it is still unknown. What I will say is a friend in town who is a biohacker and has been doing blood testing every month for the past year just got her blood work after the fires, and her heavy metals and chemicals are off the charts.
Wow.
And this is someone who's been checking it for months, for years, and has a really good baseline of her health. So over the next couple of weeks, we're actually going to be looking at the specific metals and chemicals that are elevated and testing for those things. But most important thing to realize is this is not just a wildfire. You had 12,000 homes that burnt. A lot of Teslas here in California, a lot of electric vehicles. So just think about all of the toxic smoke that was created from all the batteries, the chemicals, the paints. It's the contents of the home that contributed to this really toxic smoke environment. So normally after a regular wildfire, it's already significantly impactful on people's health. And a lot of people here are now wondering, should I stay or should I go? They're referencing 9/11 in New York and how many people got sick after the towers came down, and what's the collective debris and the toxic chemicals in the air in LA. The one thing going for it here is the coastal winds. It's quite spread out, but anybody who's in like close proximity to the homes definitely needs to be undergoing a significant smoke detox of their home. If there's any ash and soot in their home, they need to be having a restoration claim done. And this is a really important time to be filtering your air. And to those who are removed from their homes right now and have the privilege and convenience to be able to either stay out of town or delay the remediation efforts or delay the rebuilding of their homes because it's going to be a construction zone for many years to come. And with all those toxic piles of ash, every time the wind is hitting them, it's aerosolizing all of those particles. So despite the insurance company trying to rush you back into your home, you really want to be patient here and let the debris get cleaned up, because often people clean their homes, they restore them, and then they're recontaminated because the ambient air contaminates them again. So with this, people need to proceed cautiously, but the exact extent of what people are dealing with is not yet known. So to get into the specific details, you'd be lying to say you know exactly what's going on, because every time I've seen a devastating fire, it's been a different situation. The one thing going for LA is the proximity to the ocean. When this happens in a more mountainous or inland region, often the smoke is socked in for a month plus. Like you can see even from a visual perspective, the air is cleared relatively quickly. I measured the air 4 times yesterday in the same location, 2 days ago, and as the wind was picking up, the air quality, the particulate went up by 4x. Because all those homes that burnt, there's still sitting piles of ash. So every time the wind kicks up, all those materials are going airborne. So we'll address the different kind of groups of people, but I just wanted to level set with people that this is not your normal wildfire.
Yeah, that's a very good point. In fact, one of the experts on TV was pointing out that due to our lifestyles, people got, well, how could these homes just basically explode in fire? And it's like our homes are basically a can of gasoline. Almost everything in our homes is petrochemical based. And it's like throwing a match with
literally.
Yeah.
Almost everything in there is ready to light up. And plus you got gas appliances, gas stove, drywall, lumber, all of our products, carpets. So homes, that Altadena fire, it was actually 4 miles or so from where the fire was. Literally the fire was lobbing football-sized embers. So that's why you see those random situations where 3 homes burnt down and then the next door neighbor didn't. It's very random. Those people never thought that they were susceptible to losing their homes with their distance between them and the forest. But those embers being tossed miles and miles is pretty remarkable. And all it takes is hitting your roof once. The normal stuff that you test for after a fire like this is like hexavalent chromium and PAH, which is polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. Of course, you're testing for ash and soot. Now, At the very least, if somebody smelt substantial smoke at all outside their home, it means it was also inside. So even if there's not visible ash and dust and soot, unless they had significant air filtration running, because a lot of people had a lot of air filters on, but their power went out.
Yeah.
So in that case, they didn't have air filtration running. A smoke detox is required. So generally what that consists of, that's getting your ducts cleaned, getting your carpets HEPA vacuumed and steam cleaned. All the clothing in your house all at once should all take it to a dry cleaners and just get it all cleaned up. All your linens, all your clothing, do one batch of all of it. Get your upholstery done. So basically you get your clothes out, your sheets out, you have someone come through, steam clean carpets, furniture, bedding, get your ducts cleaned and your HVAC cleaned, and then have a cleaning crew come through for a deep clean. And ideally you have some good air filtration running. That is a good solid, like you're not full insurance claim situation, but it is a good idea because your indoor air comes from outside.
Right.
If you're not filtering it all those chemicals we talked about, like if you test someone's home now in New York City, an apartment, they were socked in with smoke 2 years ago. If you go now, we test someone's carpet or their bedding or their clothing and stuff. Well, not as much clothing, but furniture and of the such, it all tests positive for smoke 2 years later. Because if you don't detox it, it doesn't go anywhere. A lot of it's just like a sponge. And then there's people who are much closer in proximity to a total loss. So the folks who are like, oh, we're the lucky ones, our whole street down, but our house made it.
Yeah.
Sometimes this is the least lucky person. And I actually am here to help advocate for a lot of those people to get their homes knocked down.
Really? That bad?
That bad for a couple reasons. Number one, when a home is burning, it typically burns at about 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Once you're over 1,100 degrees Fahrenheit, which is the heat load that a neighboring house could have experienced, a lot of the steel and the metals inside lose 50% of their strength. The amount of chemicals that are now socked into your insulation, into your drywall, into your flooring, into basically everything. Plus, you're going to go and fast forward 3-4 years, it's going to be a whole street of brand new homes. And you're going to be the odd duckling on the street. And the story is clear. Oh, we were the home that survived this toxic chemical fire. You will never be able to sell that home. And then the last category is people who are a mile or so from the fire or less. These people need a significant smoke damage claim with their insurance. Some people haven't even opened claims. But basically, in that case, every soft material in your house is disposed of. Every bed, every couch, every furniture, every book, anything porous is gone. It's not salvageable. And so that's like high level what people are dealing with here right now.
I want to back off and make this more general.
Yeah.
Something you said about New York City was encased in smoke from the Canadian fires.
Yeah.
And to this day, they're still exposed to this.
Yes.
I mean, we go skiing in Deer Valley outside of Salt Lake City, and they always have this inversion layer, and they just say, "Oh, that's our inversion layer," and don't go out in it. But I think one of the things that has impressed me about air filtration is our inside of our homes are maybe potentially even worse than what's going on outside. And so this isn't just an LA thing.
Not at all.
Go into that a bit.
Sure. So yeah, the general stat is indoor air on average is 5 times dirtier than outdoor air. So first, when you do have the smoke or the fire, the allergies or the pollen, like in Austin, Texas, where I'm living now, it's a high allergy area.
Yeah.
A lot of cedar fever. If there's a high pollen day and I test inside your home or your carpet or your bedding, there's typically more pollen inside than outside because all that pollen comes inside. So the problem with the way our homes are built, especially modern homes, they're optimized for energy efficiency.
Right.
Which means keep the cool in the summer, keep the warm air in the winter, which means airtight with a vapor barrier. It's literally like a Tupperware container. So all the outdoor pollution, particulate, allergens, smoke, rubber from the tires, etc., the list goes on, comes inside your home, stays in there, can't breathe, and then all of the indoor stuff, the cooking, the cleaning products, the pets, the off-gassing, also traps inside. And then you don't have enough fresh air coming through. So the greatest air purifier of all time is nature. It's the sun, the wind, the rain, and the trees. But when our homes are so tight, we don't get the benefit. That's why when you go outside, you're like, oh, I want to walk. I need some fresh air. So fresh polluted air is a lot better than stale, indoor, trapped, contaminated air. So yes, indoor air typically much worse than outside air.
But the HVAC companies say, well, you got it. Well, they're built for efficiency to trap air inside and keep heat out and keep. Doesn't the filtration system in the normal modern home handle that?
That's a great question. And the answer is it doesn't, which is why it's called a furnace filter and not called an air filter. And when you purchase the furnace, it typically comes with like a MERV 7, a MERV 8. It comes with a low efficiency filter. I actually use like a MERV 8 in my furnace at home. I use the lowest filter that I can buy because the purpose of the furnace filter, it is a filter for the furnace. It is not for you. It is designed to keep very large particles like pet fur, like drywall dust, like a loose screw from getting into the motor and the fan. It's designed for the furnace to not overheat or have particles going through the motor. Along came people trying to, typically you'll look at the companies that are selling high efficient furnace filters aren't the manufacturer ever. And if you look closely, sometimes that voids your warranty because if you put a very efficient filter in your furnace, it creates a very significant pressure drop.
Gotcha.
You're decreasing airflow. So now the air is not flowing well. Your heating and cooling is less even. The motor on the furnace is working too hard. And the problem is your furnace or air conditioner, optimally, it's only ideally running 20, 30% of the time. It shouldn't be running 24 hours a day. So when it's not running, there's no filtration occurring. So the furnace and the air conditioner is designed to heat and cool your home in an energy efficient manner. It does a really good job at that. But when you try to just tack on a filter, tack on a humidifier, tack on a dehumidifier, when they weren't engineered for that purpose, it tends to not have the desired result.
That's a great point, and I've actually never heard it put that way. So I'm wasting my money buying these really high HEPA filters and putting them into my...
If someone's building a custom home, different story. You can engineer in a really good HVAC system, specifically using what's called an ERV or an HRV. ERV is an energy recovery ventilation system. HRV is the same. HRVs you only really need in very, very cold climates. ERVs are for almost everybody else. And what that is designed to do is to bring in fresh air in an energy efficient manner. But once again, when you just try to retrofit into an existing home, it doesn't work as intended. And it's very unfortunate that when most developers and builders and architects are building homes, especially the subdivisions, they're looking at hundreds of acres and they're saying, okay, how many homes can we fit? 2,000 homes? Great. How fast can we build them? How cheap can we build them? They're not really sitting around and saying, how do we make these homes that are optimized for human health and dial in the lighting and the air and the water, which is very sad because the marginal cost to make a home a healthy home, it just costs thoughtfulness. You don't need fancy systems and things like that. So a lot of the reason I enjoy doing podcasts and I think it's impactful is the consumer needs to demand a healthier home. If they stop buying these, McFactory built homes, then the builders will start to build better homes. So I'm pretty optimistic that with increased air awareness and consumer demand, homes can be built better. It doesn't take much.
I'm not in one of my custom-built homes with this fabulous system that you designed. Why? My goodness, I have a nose, I have lungs. I'll filter all this stuff out. Is that really where I should worry? What say you?
So not being a doctor and not being, my expertise is on the home environment structure stuff, but I've heard that up to 70% of the detox in our body occurs in our lungs, which is pretty interesting to me. Mm-hmm. So I call air sleep fuel by night and thinking fuel by the day. We eat 3 pounds of food in a day, we drink a couple liters of water, and we breathe like almost 15,000 liters of air. You can go 3 weeks without food, 3 days without water, 3 minutes without air. So I think air is this thing that we take for granted because it's the first thing we do when we're born. It's the last thing we do before we die. And it's like the only thing from a survival standpoint that our body does, whether we're awake or sleeping, it does it for us. It's that important that and when you start thinking about taking a breath, it's very annoying and it's hard to stop thinking about it. So we can do it subconsciously and consciously. And we're so good at adapting. If you go into someone's house and it smells like cooking or a wet dog, within 20 minutes, 5 minutes, you don't smell it anymore. You adapt to the environment that you're in very quickly. It's like, why don't the fish that are in the contaminated parts of the ocean swim away to cleaner waters? Because they don't even know what water is. It's just
Right.
where they live. So we just live in air, and we don't really think about the quality of it. But the same thing that people already know to be true. What's cool about air when you're already health aware, the exact same things that are true for food and water are the same for air. If you eat really bad food, you're going to feel really bad. If you eat really great food, you're going to feel better. So when people are breathing in polluted air, their allergies are worse. Their sleep quality is much, much worse. Their ability to think clearly. There was a really good study done by MIT on chess players, and the lower the quality of the air, the lower the quality of their moves were in chess. So it's really important for cognitive function. And if the biggest thing I would say is the sleep quality, though.
Okay. Speaking of sleep, you mentioned off camera someone tracking their Aura ring. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah.
Since I have one on.
Oh, you have one. Cool. So I wish we knew last August. So last August, we gave away 150 Jaspers in exchange for 1 month of people's sleep data.
Oh, wow.
Of those people, they did an 8-minute intake. So we did a big mix of men and women in different ages and all over the country. And a lot of them were doctors and naturopaths and influencers, because I find it a shame when studies are quoted all the time. They might be double blind and efficient, but you never get to see them happen. You just get this piece of paper output at the end. I'm like, how did that really go down? So we're like, okay, this is not a technical scientific study, but let's just try to do a community-led anecdotal study. So we said, in exchange for a free Jaspr, we would like 1 month of your Aura Ring data. And when we publish it, we would like to put your Instagram handle and your name beside it so people can actually know who the people were in the study. Everybody said okay. So the way the study worked is the first week, Jaspr is off in a box. Week 2 and week 3, Jaspr is on in your bedroom, fan speed 2, lights out. Week 4, Jasper's out of the room. So the average person slept 25 minutes more per night, 18% more deep sleep, and 5 minutes improved sleep latency. So falling asleep 5 minutes faster. And this average was really pulled up by the people who were sleeping the poorest. So those who were only sleeping 4 hours a night, some of them were sleeping 6 now. Also, when they went to fan speed 2, the white noise was also helping people. The average bedroom that we test, the average home in general, there's about 1 million particles floating around, 800,000 to 1 million. If you filter your air in your bedroom, you can get that down by about 95%. So naturally, if you're breathing less mold, less pollen, less dander and insect parts and skin cells and pollution, your body's very happy. It can get out of the defensive state that it's in 24 hours a day and get parasympathetic and rest and relax and heal. So for us now, the next round of studies is going to be more with sleep clinics and higher end sleep data, so we can actually call it a study. But from an anecdotal perspective, this confirmed everything that we were hearing in customer feedback, but we really wanted to put some money behind it and do an experiment. And then the week after, when they took it off, we got to see the sleep quality decrease a little bit again. So like crazy stories. Someone who'd been a snorer their whole life stopped snoring.
Interesting.
Asthma attacks significantly go down. A lot of people didn't realize they're like slightly chronically unwell, but just like a little phlegm in the morning, a little tired getting out of bed, a little puffy eyes, found that clearing up. Someone's cat that would have labored breathing all night, the cat started breathing better. So yeah, sleep's a big one, especially because you're in a small confined space.
Yeah.
So the smaller the room, the cleaner you can make the air.
You mentioned a cat. We have 4 dogs, and believe it or not, they all sleep on the bed.
I'm not surprised.
What's that doing to me?
Well, if you think about a dog, no one thinks about it this way. I asked people this question. I said, would you take a blanket, go outside, rub it on a couple dogs' butts, rub it on the road, rub it on a tree, maybe your neighbor's glyphosate-filled lawn, and then come home and shake it out in your bed? They're like, no. I'm like, well, you do that every day with your dog. So if you think about it, like generally, the bigger the dog, they also can impact humidity and carbon dioxide more than one would think. So the more dogs and the bigger the dogs, the more they pollute the air. I think they probably offset with the love and companionship and the decrease of stress. It probably roughly levels out.
Good balance.
Yeah. I think people who are going to sleep in a room with their pets, I think grooming the pets more regularly than you think you should is a good idea. And I also think in that case, if there's pets in the room, I think filtering your air is a non-negotiable, because even if you're getting the dander and the fur and everything in the bed, you don't want to be breathing it in. And that's a situation where I would run the air filter on an even higher setting, like maybe even fan speed 3. So I think pets in the bedroom have their benefits, but not from an air perspective.
All right, if you're talking about Jaspr, your product, and fan speeds, just to be devil's advocate, why don't I run out to a big box store? Now you've scared me. Why don't I go get one of those and put it in my room?
Well, I would say that the biggest upgrade someone in life can make is 0 to 1. So getting something is a wonderful place to start. I think any air filtration is way better than no filtration. I also would tell people that one of the best air filters you can get is actually making a DIY air filter. That the reason you shouldn't usually go to a big box store is because the DIY filter that you can make for $100 or so is going to be much more effective. So if you type in on Google, you can misspell it, doesn't matter, but Corsi Rosenthal box. Basically, you can take 4 furnace filters. In that case, use a high grade one like a MERV 17 and a couple box fans and tape them together and have a really efficient air purifier. So that is usually your lowest cost, most effective, best bang for your buck option. The downsides are aesthetic, automated sensors, and noise. They're not going to be the quietest, but they're going to be way more effective. So I think from an affordable perspective, that is definitely the way to go. But and then the other end of the spectrum, the reason I started Jaspr was I was doing huge toxic mold remediations, floods, fires, hurricanes, cleaning up nasty environments, asbestos, all of it. We would use something called air scrubbers. So a very industrial grade air purifier. They're usually 60 pounds. They are large. They are super effective, though. They are incredible at cleaning the air. The downside is they're very loud, they're very large, and they're very ugly. So I remember being in Fort McMurray, Alberta in 2016, Canada's biggest wildfire ever. And we had scrubbers in her home. Her name was Angela. And she had a sick baby, too. And she unplugged her scrubber despite very compromised air. I'm like, Angela, what are you doing? She's like, I know, Mike, but it's so loud. So she's like, even though their health was compromised, it was too loud. So the vision for Jaspr has a wildfire restoration guy. I originally made that just for wildfires. It then became over-engineered and was a perfect fit for doctors' offices and now homes. But the reason it's larger than most air purifiers is because I was trying to make a commercial-grade air scrubber, but quiet and aesthetically pleasing. Because I noticed if it's ugly or if it's loud, it's going to get unplugged. It's going to get put in the closet. It had to actually add to people's decor and be something that they are proud to display. So in short, what makes Jaspr very impressive is it's steel, not plastic. It has commercial grade sensors on board. So it automatically is adapting to cooking, to cleaning, to wildfire smoke, to hairspray, to incense in real time. And the lifetime warranty is pretty good too. But generally, you want size when it comes to cleaning air. Most filters at big box stores are great. When people are trying to compete on filters are mostly very efficient. They're all over 99%. It's like, would you rather have 99% of $1 or 95% of $5? So when the machine is large, it can be silent and still effective. With those little machines you see at a big box store, you'd pretty much have to keep them on loudest mode all the time to be moving enough air. And if you do that, they're okay. But basically, it's the combination of size, which is performance, and aesthetic.
How big an area will Jaspr clean?
So this is another really interesting topic because we go into the big box store and we see two numbers. We see 99% efficiency and we see 1,000 square feet. Your air purifier does not care about square feet. It's not a Roomba. It cares about cubic volume. So if you have an 8-foot ceiling versus a 16-foot ceiling, that's half the effectiveness. So it's really all about cubic feet. Also, if there's a forced air system, that increases the capacity because there's additional fans moving the air. So also when someone says covers, does covers mean 10% filtration or 95%? They don't tell you that part. Usually it's closer to the 10%. So with all that said, how does someone figure it out? To me, covers means it has to make the room at least 80% cleaner on its lowest fan speed setting. That's the other thing. People do the stat on full speed, but most air purifiers run on the lowest speed. So with 8-foot ceilings, we're good for about 1,000 square foot with 8-foot ceilings with no other airflow running. But to put it simply for people, 1 in the bedrooms is what you want for really clean air in your bedrooms. That one you'd run on fan speed 2 on dark mode. And then 1 for a large, great room, living room, family area on smart mode. If you have a massive living area, then 2. But getting into specific square foot and calculations is making this more complicated than it really needs to be.
So, well, this sounds great, but all I got is enough for 1. It sounds like bedroom's
the way to go. And the biggest gain that people are usually going to have in their health is because of just the decrease of mold spores is where Jaspr thrives by moving enough air. Your bedroom is absolutely the place to start. And you can scale from there. But like breathing clean air when you're sleeping is the most important thing you could do.
Because we spend about a third of our time in that room.
I hope so.
I hope so, yeah. But, yeah. You got to get good sleep, folks. And actually, you brought up an interesting point, which I think is worth mentioning. White noise is very useful for a great number of people.
So useful. And rather have my white noise not coming from an EMF-filled speaker that's pretending to be air. It might as well be coming from a high-quality air filtration system. And we did no Bluetooth, no Wi-Fi, no apps to limit EMF, which we don't know how helpful it is, but we know that our customers care a lot.
Yeah.
And just simple.
Any way listeners can find out more about Jaspr?
Yeah, so today is March 11th, and today you can go to our website at jaspr.co. There's no E and no M, so it's jaspr.co, and the code Dr. Gundry will give people a $400 discount for 1 week. So March 11th today until March 18th at midnight. However, after that week, the code will stay live forever, and it will always be $200 off. So not every week and not every day is air purifier investment day. We get it. But for those of you who do want to invest in filtered air, and our guarantee to everybody, this is the lowest price you'll ever see, including Black Friday. It's basically what the Black Friday deal is.
Huh?
But so code Dr. Gundry, jaspr.co, today, March 11th until March 18th. And anyone who does buy it, if it's not life-changing for you in the first 60 days, we'll take it back. We'll send you back all your money. We'll even prepay the shipping to take it back too.
Man.
So either it makes you sleep better and feel better, or it doesn't. And if it doesn't, then it shouldn't cost you anything.
And I might add, I actually have your device in my waiting room in my office in Palm Springs, and we were talking off camera. Palm Springs, fantastic area, quote, great air quality, but boy, do we have dust. And that dust has a lot of...
I'll have to get you another one for your bedroom.
No, thank you. Interesting mold spores, etc.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Good for you. So I mentioned to you, we always have an audience question. So before I let you go, this is perfect. This is from Mika Bratt on YouTube. I work at UPS working around the jets. Sometimes there's so much exhaust because the jet is upwind and you're just breathing in a whole bunch for a while. I'm wondering if it's worth the impact on health to work here. Some days there's more fresh air, but on the days when I've been exposed to a lot of jet exhaust, one of my eyes seems to stick out more than the other for the rest of the day. What kind of effects could this have on the body over the years?
So not being a doctor, I can't tell you about the body stuff, but what I can tell you is I used to do occupational consulting when there was hazardous employee complaints in the workspace before Jaspr. And remember there was I won't name them, but it was in Canada. They were the largest food company. So think about all your produce being washed before it's delivered to the grocery stores. And we got brought in because all of the employees were having, as soon as they would leave work, their eyes would burn after the shift. So we went in and did extensive testing, and it turned out that there was a chemical reaction between the chlorines and the chemicals that they used to wash the tomatoes and the cleaning products that the after-hours cleaning crew was using. And it was burning the employees' eyes to the point where they couldn't drive home safely.
Well,
that story reminded me of that. So what I will say is workplace hazards and environments, just like the homes that weren't built for people, likely the number one thing that UPS is optimizing for is not that. So I would say ideally, maybe you can be transferred, but if you're feeling things like your eye sticking out more than you should, I mean, ask yourself that question out loud. Do you think this is a good thing for your short-term and long-term well-being? Personally, I can only tell you what I would do. No matter if I would leave cities, I would leave countries, I would uproot my life in a big way if my environment is compromising how my body feels. So you can decide what you want to do.
Yeah, every time you go fill up with gas at the gasoline station, there's a big sign basically warning you about these toxic fumes. And if you actually read the sign and believed it, you would hold your breath while you were pumping your gas, and you're basically sitting there during your job without having that warning sign at your work. And your point is well taken.
More amazing episodes just like this one. Watch now.
Fertility rates are plummeting in America, and we've got to lay the blame on our need for these plastics in our life.